What if I told you the Toronto Blue Jays just pulled off one of the smartest moves in baseball and nobody's talking about the real genius behind it? Look, I know what you're thinking. Another overpaid free agent, another disappointing offseason for Toronto. But hold on, because what I'm about to show you is going to completely change how you see this Dylan Cease signing. Let me hit you with something that's going to blow your mind. This isn't just about getting a pitcher. This is about the Blue Jays finally proving they're serious about competing at the highest level. And when you look under the hood of this deal, when you see what's really happening here, you're going to understand why this might be the move that changes everything for this franchise. 7 years, $210 million for Dylan Cease. On the surface, people are losing their minds. They're saying the Jays overpaid for a guy who posted a 4.5 ERA last season. They're saying this is another desperate move by a franchise that can't close the deal. But here's what they're missing, and this is crucial. The contract includes deferrals that drop the actual annual value down to around $26 million per year. Think about that for a second. They're advertising a blockbuster deal that sends a message to the entire league, but the real financial commitment is way more manageable than it looks. This is front office wizardry at its finest. They get the headline splash they desperately needed while maintaining the flexibility to make more moves, and that's not desperation, that's smart business. But let's talk about the player himself, because this is where it gets really interesting. Everyone's fixating on that ERA from last year, and that's exactly what casual observers do. They see 4.5 and think he's declining, but front offices don't operate that way anymore. They're looking at expected ERA, and Cease's was 3.46. That's a full run better than his actual results. You know what that tells you? That tells you he got incredibly unlucky. His expected FIP was solid. His strikeout numbers were elite. In fact, Dylan Cease led all of baseball in strikeouts per 9 innings at 11.5. Let me repeat that because it's absolutely massive. This guy strikes out more batters per 9 innings than anyone else in the game. And the Blue Jays just acquired him to anchor their rotation. Here's something else nobody's talking about. Since 2021, Cease ranks 7th in innings pitched among qualified starters. This is a workhorse. This is a guy who takes the ball every 5th day without fail. The Blue Jays haven't had that kind of reliability in their rotation in years. You want to know what's more valuable than flashy strikeout numbers? Availability. And Dylan Cease gives them that in spades. Now let's address the defense issue, because this is where the story gets even better. Last season, the Padres had one of the worst defenses in baseball behind their pitchers. -7 outs above average. That's brutal. Every ground ball that should be an out, every fly ball that should be caught. When your defense isn't making plays, your ERA suffers even if you're pitching well. The Blue Jays have one of the best defensive teams in baseball. They're going to catch those balls. They're going to turn those double plays. Cease's numbers are about to look completely different in Toronto, but here's where this signing becomes truly brilliant. The Blue Jays have been chasing Dylan Cease for years. They tried to trade for him before the Padres got him. They tried again last offseason. This wasn't some panic move in free agency. This was a calculated long-term pursuit of a specific target that they believed in. That's the kind of organizational focus that wins championships. And the meeting they had with him, Pete Walker and Sam Green led the presentation. They showed him exactly how they're going to help him develop into a dominant number 1 starter. Remember what Pete Walker did with Robbie Ray? Ray comes to Toronto as a reclamation project and leaves as a Cy Young winner. That's not luck, that's elite player development. Cease was the runner-up for the Cy Young in 2022 with a 2.2 ERA. The Blue Jays believe they can get him back to that level, and they have the track record to prove they can do it. Look at where the Blue Jays rotation stands now. According to Fangraph's depth charts, they project as the 8th best rotation in baseball and 3rd best in the American League. Last year, they were 24th. That's not incremental improvement. That's a complete transformation. Cease, Gausman, Berrios, Bassett, Manoah, or Ryu. That's a playoff caliber rotation right there. Here's what really excites me about this move, though. The deferrals in the contract mean the Blue Jays still have financial flexibility. They're not done. Reports are already coming out that they're engaged with back-end relievers They're still pursuing Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s extension. This isn't an either-or situation. They can do multiple things because they structured this deal intelligently. And think about the message this sends to other players. The Blue Jays just handed out the longest pitching contract in franchise history. They beat out other big market teams for one of the best pitchers on the market. When Willie Adames is deciding where to sign, when Alex Bregman is weighing his options, when any free agent is looking at potential destinations, they see Toronto making aggressive moves. That matters. Players want to win, and the Blue Jays are showing they're serious about building a winner. The advanced metrics on Cease are fascinating too. His slider has a 41% whiff rate. That's elite. His velocity hasn't declined. His pitch mix gives Toronto something they haven't had in years, a power arm at the top of the rotation who can dominate games with strikeouts. Berrios is steady, Gausman is crafty, but Cease brings that knockout punch that you need in playoff baseball. Let's compare this contract to similar deals around the league. Carlos Rodon got a similar amount. Sonny Gray signed for comparable money. Nathan Eovaldi's deal is in the same range. The market is what the market is. And the Blue Jays paid market value for an elite pitcher entering his age 30 season. That's not an overpay. That's recognizing reality and acting decisively. The facilities argument is real too. Players are talking about Toronto's training facilities being among the best in baseball. The clubhouse culture is strong. They nearly won a World Series not long ago. These intangibles matter when you're trying to convince top talent to come north of the border. Dylan Cease chose Toronto over other options because he believes in what they're building. That should tell you everything you need to know. So where do the Blue Jays go from here? They've addressed the rotation. Now they can focus on extending Guerrero, adding another bat, strengthening the bullpen. Every move they make from here is enhanced by the Cease signing because they've established themselves as serious players. They're not rebuilding. They're not in some vague competitive window. They're going for it right now. This is the kind of move that defines an offseason. The Blue Jays made a statement, and they did it in a way that's financially responsible while still making a massive splash. Dylan Cease is a Blue Jay, and if everything breaks right, if Pete Walker works his magic again, if the defense helps his numbers the way we expect, this could be the signing we look back on as the moment everything changed in Toronto. The truth behind this deal is simple. The Blue Jays are all in, and they just got significantly better.